So I'm sitting here braced for another atmospheric river. Why can't we just say rain? It's going to rain.
I think it is a little bit more than rain, my man.
He's Dewey Freeman, and he should know because it's 16 degrees at his house, and it's going to rain again here in Santa Barbara. How about that? Welcome.
Yeah.
We are the elders. We are the Elder Council. I'm Mark Sylvester. Like I said, my good friend Dewey Freeman, coming from the mountains in Colorado, where you take all of the rain we get and convert it into feet and feet and feet of snow.
Feet and feet and feet of snow. We literally have had snow on the ground where we live since October. Right now, there's probably 2 feet outside my window here.
And I'm not sure when people will listen to this, but it is a couple of days before the calendar says it's spring. No one informed the weatherman.
The weather gods are not listening.
You know what? They've been listening to our prayers for water. We've had a 9-year drought, and this water is just so, I mean, we're getting too much of it in some areas, but by and large, that's spotty. So it's good for us to refill on the water. I can't wait. My garden, my birds and the chipmunks, everybody's all happy with the water.
Absolutely. And actually, it's been interesting. I've seen either satellite pictures or drone pictures of various reservoirs at incredibly low states to some of them are like 80% full now.
Yeah, we just spilled a couple weeks ago, so we're happy. Yeah, we're happy about that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming spilled means that it's 100, whatever was spilled is 100% full. Right on.
What I didn't know was that the people who manage water, and I'm going to be doing a show on this in a few weeks, if you work up the food chain or the water chain, if you will, they have to, when there's more water coming, they have to let the water go. They have to actually flood downstream because they have to make room for the water or it'll flood. So everything is controlled. So water management is way more complicated. And in some instances, because it's such a complicated system, to me, way more interesting than it was before. And it's never paid attention, my whole life, never paid attention to it. But this year it happened to be a once in several decades kind of deal. So, I bet our listener doesn't care for a couple of old guys talking about the weather.
Well, maybe, or I just put this in. I don't know that we need to continue talking about the weather and our environment. And this, I was at Traver's last night. Traver put together this event with a number of men talking about actually some very, very important things. And part of what did happen is that it went to that we need as beings and require as beings to be more connected with nature and with natural processes. And and again, not that we need to continue talking about the weather and droughts. In droughts, people die. Plants die, animals die, our environment dies. So having some level of understanding and cognition of that, I think, is pretty important.
And our impact on that, which is a whole nother conversation, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Well, which leads to kind of what I wanted to talk about today. There's like several ways to, when you think about the impact of climate and climate change and all of those, was kind of what we're talking about. It's as a result of this, we're having this abnormal rainy season, abnormal snow. Everything is abnormal. Everything's abnormal these days, right? So you can either ignore it That's a choice. Or I can say, I can discount it,
Hmm.
or I can lean in and do something about it. Those are kind of the three choices with anything new and big that comes into life, right? I can just go,
Hmm.
nah, nothing to see here. Or, oh my God, hair on fire. Or, hey, I'm going to do something about that. And for the people who say, I'm going to do something about that. So we recycle, or we do the kinds of things that have been asked of us to do.
Hmm.
And yet, because I've had lots of conversations, done lots of shows on this, people give up because they go,
Uh,
how can my, just me saving my one little plastic bottle? And then we see these literal islands of plastic that they find out in the Pacific, and they go, well, hey, it's bigger than me. They just can't do it. They give up.
um, what's your perspective when someone says this is bigger than me, or I'm not big enough to have an impact? What's your perspective on that?
I call bullshit typically. Only
So no,
because
no perspective. You just call bullshit.
I what I try to typically where that shows up in my life is someone doesn't feel that their idea is worth fighting for. The thing that they
Mm,
care about is not worth fighting for. And it'll come in the guise of, wanting to do a TED talk, or standing up in front of their team, or taking a stand, right? Taking a stand on an idea. Could be climate, could be anything.
mhm.
And they're just, how can I make a difference? I'm not going to make I'm just me. I'm just a single voice. I can show statistical proof that one voice in 18 minutes can make a change. 18 minutes, that's all. Look at TED Talks that have 100 million views. Look at Simon Say. Everybody mostly now knows that people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it, because Simon Sinek did a TED Talk in 2008 in Puget Sound, of all places, just a little in a auditorium with a flip chart. Changed how we think about stuff. I know
Mm,
clearly
mhm.
changed me. So did one guy on one day in 18 minutes change? Yes. So why
Totally.
not you?
Mhm.
So that's when I say, look at I've seen it. I'm a part of it. I've 35 million views of videos we've done here in Santa Barbara, one with 6 million views alone. Do you think people's lives were changed as a result of hearing someone talk and they go, oh, I never thought of it that way. Thank you so much. And I think people give up because they stop believing in themselves. They expect fast results. They fear the future, all these various reasons.
Mhm.
And I'm here to say, no, not true. Story you're telling yourself.
Well, talk a little bit about the story you're telling yourself. Talk, because that's a really big piece. Um,
So I think about it. I'm thinking about pictures, right? So I imagine that I have a committee in my head that's in session. Okay. And I walk into that committee and they're all
mhm.
sitting around the table going, what the fuck did you do that for? Like, what was that? What were you thinking? You can't do that. Think of all the voices around you at, at a
Mhm.
at a table, conference room, and you've just come in. You're like, fuck, I do not want to go in this meeting, but I can't get out of the meeting. And I sit down and I'm yelling at myself. Now, so that happens. Everyone who's listening right now knows they have a committee in their head that's talking to them.
Totally.
So one of the things you could do is you guys are wrong. Get up and close the door and go about your life. I've done that. You guys stop. The committee's closed. No more meeting. I've literally done that before. And now I've gotten to where I'm in charge of them. They're not in charge of me.
Mm.
But when we think about the story we tell ourselves, you and I did a show on it back in the day. The first question, and when I can tell when someone's talking to me, I says, "Oh, so that's a story you've told yourself, huh?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then they know that. And I
Hmm.
said, "Well, here's the question my good friend Dewey Freeman says to ask. Is it true?"
Yeah.
And they look at me and they go, "Oh, I don't think it is." "Oh, you're welcome."
So when we're working with truth and trying to answer that question, many people would come back and go, well, there is no objective truth. Many people would come back and go, there is, and some people would even go, well, it's true to me, so it doesn't matter. It's not true to you. Um, when we ask ourselves if something is true, the underlying sense that I ask to work with, or that people work with that, is it true enough to stop you from what you're doing, or
Mm,
to
mm, mm.
to affect your life the way that this is affecting your life? Because many people will go, well, yeah, it's a story I'm telling myself. And then when I ask, is it true? They go, well, parts of it are. And that's usually accurate, actually.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but then the next question then is it true enough to do for that story to be affecting your life the way that it's affecting your life?
Is there enough truth in that to justify what you're doing?
Yeah. Whether it's justify what you're doing by giving up, or whether it's justify what you're doing by being angry, or justify what you're doing by, you know, by going and not being honest with somebody. Is, is it true enough to be doing what you're doing?
Mm. And what just crossed my mind is when a board member would ask me, should we be doing this thing? Should we be on this path? And I need them to trust me as the visionary, as the lead. I need them to trust me. And so they would say, so the story I'm telling myself is this is going to be successful. It's one of the dangers of being an entrepreneur is I totally
Mhm.
believe this thing is going to, and it is my passion and my belief and my commitment and my trusting myself and trusting all the things we've talked about, trusting my ability. Yeah, I got this. And now, so you might say, well, I don't believe that. Is there enough truth in my story that I'm telling myself to justify the action to what you just said?
Mhm.
And Einstein said, is there a 1% chance I'm right?
Yes.
So in my case, if there's a 1% chance I'm right, that's enough until I get 2%. Until
Mhm.
I get 30%. I'm going to go. But this is positive behavior we're talking about. What if
Yeah.
someone's got negative self-talk, right? Negative story they're telling, or said, no, she wronged me, or they deserve this, or all that negative stuff, right? What do you do then? Because to your point, it's true to them.
It is. Let's, can we go back? Can we circle back around to where you started? Uh, you had three things. One is when something comes up, do you give up? And what were the other two? One is,
So there were a couple like like I expect something to happen quickly, so I give up, or I don't believe in my ability to do it, or I'm just a fuck up. I'm gonna dwell on my mistakes. I can't do that. There's a whole litany of reasons why people give up. Those were three that I picked. There's a
right.
plenty.
But you had one, I think one was give up. There's another one, and there was a third one that says, I'm going to do something about it.
Oh, those. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when this big opportunity, there's this something, there's been a seismic shift. Okay. I'm either going to ignore it. It didn't
That
happen.
was it. Yeah.
I ignore it, or I'm gonna hair on fire. Oh my God, dystopian future. The bots are going to take over the world, or I'm going to lean into it with this could be amazing. So it's a utopian view, positive outlook on, hey, that is great. I'm on board with this,
Hmm.
whatever this thing is. Dystopian, oh my God, life is over as we know it, or nothing to see here.
Got it. So let me throw in, and actually, in this piece you just did, you actually brought up a piece that I wanted to throw in is the idea and the concept of enjoying our failures, the idea and the concept of enjoying our when we get ourselves Twitter pated and upset. The idea of the concept of even enjoying when we're stuck.
And I agree with you, but why? Why should we enjoy them? Because while you're in that, it sure is not enjoyable.
Only if we're telling ourselves the story that it shouldn't be enjoyable.
And I've been in my fair share of marital squabbles. There wasn't a damn
Probably
thing
no.
in there's nothing enjoyable about that.
Well, it depends.
I'm not a masochist, nor am I a sadist. So we've talked about this before. It's like, when you can be self-aware to the point and this is not good. What's happening right now is not good by objective measure. The majority of the people say this is not good. Yet I am going to choose to it. Maybe enjoy is the wrong word, but maybe embrace is a better word, rather than shy away from it or ignore it or fight it. I'm going to accept it. Is that what you're saying?
I think on some levels, that's what I'm saying. I'm also saying that it is possible, for instance, let's say we're in the middle of a huge grieving process. A parent has died, or a partner has, or wife or husband has just been diagnosed with cancer. Are we, and those things are horrible. And most people would go, either I want to give up, or I don't know what to do, or I'm overwhelmed. But allowing ourselves when we go into those places, when we go into those states of, for instance, intense grief, can we enjoy the fact that that's what we're supposed to be doing? That that's actually how we are designed to be able to get through unbelievably difficult things. And if you look at that, it's if something like those things happened and we didn't go into a very tough place, like sobbing or hurt or
Mm.
feeling overwhelmed or, oh my God, what do I do with this? Or if we didn't do those things, then the meaning of the relationship, for instance, that was damaged or hurt, or the life that may have been, um, you know, made more difficult, for instance, then it would be unbelievably. We would literally be zombies. We would literally be beings walking around without the level of intimacy or level of feeling that we're designed to have. So the enjoyment, I know this is a bit of a twist on this, the enjoyment of being able to feel the most difficult feelings we can feel and having a sense of, yeah, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now. This is exactly how I am designed. Is and being able to hold a wonder about and a curiosity and an awe, maybe an awe of, this is an amazing process that I'm going through,
Mm.
even though it's the one of the most difficult processes that
Mm.
I can experience. If we can move to a place of going, yeah, I'm in awe that I'm designed this way, that ability to do that will actually prevent us from giving up.
And as you're saying that, I I think that that's a higher order bit, a higher order level of achievement. That's a level of mastery over your presence that takes a while to get to. So I think it's good that people are hearing it now. Part of the premise of our show is being able to talk to men much, much younger than us to say, hey, here's an important thing to aspire to. You may not get
Absolutely,
it.
Mark.
It reminds us of Grandmaster Rick, who said, oh, this is an opportunity to train,
Hmm.
right? So that next time that thing happens. Now, me, I am I'm an optimist with all capital letters. Okay. And so, and one of the things I've learned from talking with you is the universe is going to balance things out. I think of the yin yang sign. I think of all of that. We talked about highs and lows. We talked about that with my son. Remember, highs and lows,
Totally.
and you're going to have that low, knowing that like I need to have that low. The universe has put that in my path right now for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but it's there.
Mm.
Instead of ignoring it or wishing it went away or any of that, just okay. To your point, we were talking about the teenager comes at you with a rebellion. Look at the universe. Says, that's it. That's all. That's all you got.
Hmm.
Maybe don't do that because the universe go, okay, Padawan, here, pile it on.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna, yeah.
but I think this in awe of being able to notice the shift between those really high feelings we have and the really low feelings makes a couple things. One, the old adage, "This too shall pass." That's a
Hmm.
good one to remember. Hey, this will pass. Another one is a friend of mine, Dr. Joan. She talked about waves, and she's actually done the scientific study on those waves of feeling. And she
Hmm.
says the initial wave when it hits lasts about 90 seconds, and
Mm.
then it tapers off. And so it's surviving that 90 seconds when you
Yes.
think that 90 seconds is going to last forever, and it doesn't. So I now, but again, if you hadn't heard those two things or read that or seen that, you wouldn't know. Um, all of that leads me to, and I think you'll get where I'm going. In meditation, aren't
Mm.
we taught to observe with interest, to be dispassionate to that thing that's happening? Oh, look what's happening to me right now. And you note it, right? Oh, this is a very bad thing. This is a very good thing. There's no, uh, the idea is to achieve an equilibrium to where we're not thrown off either way. Am I right in that?
I think yeah, yeah. I think the way that I would put it is that the idea is to notice those things without judging them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't judge them good or bad. I just, oh,
Right. It's like, oh, yep,
hmm,
that happened.
yeah,
Yeah, that happened.
that's
And
hard.
it's horribly difficult. It's horribly difficult. And we're actually societally and religiously, we are trained to judge.
Hmm.
And there actually are societies and are religions that where where people are trained not to judge, which is an interesting piece. And the um, and when we get trained to judge ourselves, when we get trained to judge actions, when we get trained to judge other people, primarily what that brings oftentimes is is an inner struggle and many times an inner unhappiness. Because if my training is, if I'm trained in societally or religiously to judge others, I will judge myself.
Mhm.
And um, and going back to the story, like if I'm going, if my story is, oh, my wife doesn't want to have sex with me right now, and I judge that, I can go 1,000 places with that. I can go, she doesn't love me. I'm not a good enough lover, or you know, she's not being a good wife, or I'm not being a good husband, or I'm blah 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 blah. Or I can come in and go, okay, that's what's happening right now, and actually even be curious about what's going on. Or I can just go, got it, and have an inner belief that inside that in our relationship that there will be a time where what I'm desiring does happen. But as soon as we judge, we end any possibility of anything happening. And let me make this even a little bit more concrete. Might be a little bit easier. As as you know, and as most people know, a lot of the therapeutic work I do is with horses and with people and horses. There'll be many times someone will meet one of my horses and they'll be petting a horse and there'll be a lot of contact, and then just the horse just decides to walk over and start eating, maybe 20 feet away. And pretty much, probably 95% of the time, people go, "Oh, the horse doesn't like me,"
Mm,
or "I did something wrong." Well, that's actually not accurate. What's accurate is that the horse wanted to go eat. That's all that happened. And so those stories that we make up, those stories that we judge, I'm not liked, whether it's a horse going and eating or my wife not wanting to be sexual with me right now, is those are the stories that when we pile those stories on that way, we don't have any other choice but to finally give up, because those stories that we put on ourselves that are not accurate get too heavy to carry.
mm,
And if I can go, yeah, my horse, it's not that hay over there, it'd be a good thing to go over and munch on, versus that horse doesn't like me. That's that's a shift that I'm trying, that when I talk about, well, can I enjoy this process? Well, yeah, I can enjoy watching a horse munch on hay. And instead of putting together a whole scenario of judgment around what's happening.
mm. Again, observe with interest.
Yeah, observe with interest. Yeah, exactly. Coming back to exactly what you said with meditation, it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Oh, well,
Hmm. Right.
or
Yeah.
maybe even that's beautiful, or that's even that thought that might be a little bit scary. Um, but we're not judging. It's like we're not going to a place of going, well, that was scary, so I shouldn't, so I'm a bad meditator. I mean, those kinds of processes.
So when you, I mean, you have a therapeutic role in people's lives, so they come to you for answers, or you help them find the answer in themselves. Why don't we just
Hmm.
start there?
Yeah,
True, right?
that'd be an accurate
Right.
statement.
So
Yeah.
when you are just either with yourself or with a good friend, or you're a close enough relationship where you can have honest conversation back and forth, hopefully with yourself or with a
With,
trusted other, whoever,
mhm.
um, and you sense that. I guess if you sense it in someone else, do you say anything? Is that judging?
Sense what in someone else?
That they're
Sense,
locked in some self-talk. They're
locked in some
yeah,
self-judgment.
there's something, and you're like, "Oh, man." Or you notice in yourself, you go, "Shoot, that's a story I'm telling myself." So how do you break that cycle? There you go. That's the question. How do you
Mm,
break that cycle, whether it's in you or it's in someone else?
right. Well, for myself, I'm going, I mean, I literally go, is this story true right now? And the answer so many times is no. So, I mean, I've actually gotten to a point where I don't tell myself those stories that much.
Right.
It's like I'm just here. Um,
But
it,
that was asking that question every single time until that that atomic habit of asking the little question, right? I know if this, then
right,
that.
right. Yeah. I wasn't doing that same process when I was 20. Let's just put it that way.
Mhm.
Um, when a good friend is asking me something, this is your question is a great question. I will, if, so let me talk about this one thing super quickly. When somebody comes into therapy, there's a contract that happens between us. The contract is essentially a particular person is a client and I'm a therapist. That's a contract. That's the agreement between us. If I'm with a friend, the contract that I have with a friend is a different contract. And it's not therapist client contract. So what I will actually do is I will ask that person, is it okay if blank, if I give you feedback? Is it okay if I delve into something with you? Is that, do I have that permission from you to do that?
Mm.
And you actually saw me do that with a person at a recent event.
Mhm.
And if the person says no to me, I will go, okay. If I,
Without judging.
without judging, if a person says yes to me, I will often ask a second time, are you sure it's okay? Because I really want that permission to shift the contract, at least for a short period of time. And if the person says yes the second time, then the contract is shifted enough to where it's like, okay, here's my feedback.
Mm.
And then I do that in as kind and caring a way as possible. And the biggest part of that is separating a personhood from behavior. So if I'm going to say something to somebody, it'll be like, I see that you're an incredibly good person, that you're incredibly kind, and I'm noticing this behavior. And then it's done. I'm not putting an added judgment on it, and I'm not putting an added expectation on it. I'm not putting the expectation that you should listen to what I say, and by God, you should do what I say. That part's not there. And it's the same way with me. If when I meditate and something comes through, it's like, am I going to just notice this with curiosity, or is there something I really want to do with this? Am I going to do an internalized shift in the contract?
Mm.
And sometimes I say, yeah, I do want to explore this more. Sometimes I go, no, I'm just going to be here right now. So it's literally the shift in the contract.
I think as I'm listening to you, imagining sitting, having a cup of coffee with someone or on a walk with someone, and something comes up, and instead of just imposing our will or our idea, well, you should,
yeah,
that tone of voice, right? Right. Say, hey, would it be okay if I gave you my 2 cents on what you just said?
you bet.
And to your point, they go, yeah, sure. No, like, I'm being serious right now. Like, is it okay if we talk? So
Hmm.
you're resetting, right? You're just like,
Hmm.
no, this isn't casual anymore. At least for a minute, there's something here.
Yeah.
And I think that second time, the first one might have been an automatic response. Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Right. That's what I
Hmm.
would think. And then you ask again, oh, okay, you want me to pay attention? Okay.
Yes.
I'm, yeah, you have my attention. Yeah, let's do this.
Hmm.
I love that way. I love that. This came up we were talking about giving permission around touching people in improv. There's a lot of
Totally.
touching and
Mhm.
hugging, and you said no, you kind of got to ask more than once, right, to do that, and which I appreciate. Doc, we're at the end of our time. Look at that. Would it be okay if I say we're at the end of our time?
You bet. That's perfect.
Oh my gosh, I love our conversations, and I would just encourage people to just pay attention to the inner storyteller, and is it true? And then ask yourself, is it okay if we deal with this right now? And maybe listen to what you have to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Take care.